Welcome to the Misfits Guide to the Bible.
Where the curious, the skeptical, and the strange find a home.
I'm Jonas Worthy.
And I'm Sam Smith, and together we will embark on a journey through the Bible's wild side.
For those who don't quite fit in. So I joined Blue Sky recently, and I actually really like it. Are you still on X at all?
Yes, and I refuse to call it Twitter, but Elon is blocked.
Good. Yeah, that's
Because,
probably a smart idea.
because I had to keep looking at his dumb ass, and it was making me so mad.
God, I've like gone back on X a little infrequently, not that much, but just to kind of see what is still going on over there. And every time I do, I'm like, this was a mistake. This was a mistake.
I saw a tweet that said, I finally understand why old people refuse to leave their home. Because, I've been on Twitter since it's, started. I'm not leaving now. I'm not going to a new.
That's fair.
I need to go to Blue Sky, but it's like right up there with Threads and everything else, and I'm just so old.
I like Blue Sky. It reminds me of how Twitter was kind of mid 2010s. So
Good old
there,
days.
yeah, there are not as many features that X has, but I like it more because, well, maybe I like it more because it's an echo chamber, but I like it more because I don't feel attacked every time I post something. I don't
Oh,
feel like everybody is like out to personally attack everything about me. And
hear that.
I've just seen some of the people that I follow on X. I'll go and just look at their pages every once in a while just to see what they're up to, and they'll post something about just something along the lines of, I can't believe we're in the situation that we're in, and people will be, I mean, just say some of the nastiest things you've ever seen in the comments. It is
Twitter
crazy.
is or X, whatever, is vile.
It is. It is the Wild West at this point. I mean, it
I
is
guess I'll go down
just
with the ship. The right now my feed has been filled with a lot of Taylor Swift Beyonce drama, and I'm like, how did I get here? I mean, I'm still gonna read it, but how did I get here? And it's such no nuanced takes, a lot of but a lot of takes, and so it's where you know what? It's fine. The world is ending.
yeah. So I mean, what social media platform you're on while it ends doesn't matter. So
You know what? Let's bring back MySpace.
agreed. That's what we need to do. All right. So the story for today. Oh, I just realized I did not give a teaser for the next episode, and it was a good one too. I'm disappointed now. But this one, so the teaser for this one was talking out of your ass. It was a good one, and I missed it. Golden opportunity.
That is good. Are we? Give me a second, because normally I would have some time to think about that.
Yeah, yeah. So this one is, yeah, if you can guess what this story is about, I feel like the clue actually kind of blatantly gives it away, but you have to be thinking about it
I
in.
almost so my knee jerk is to be like, okay, cool. So obviously a donkey,
Mhm.
but then I was like, there cannot be talking animals in the Bible. All
Nope.
right.
You got it. Spot on. Yeah, talking donkey. So that's where we're going with today.
Hell yeah, concubines, talking donkeys.
Yep.
I'm
Welcome to the
ready.
Bible. All
Love it.
right. So, yeah, today we are going to be looking at the story of the prophet Balaam and his donkey. And look, Bible nerds, I know that Balaam is not how you actually say his name. Don't come at me, okay? All right. So, apparently, we just like chapter 22 because we're going to be in Numbers 22 today.
Cool.
So, Numbers is going to be the fourth, the fourth book of the Hebrew Bible. Um, I promise we will get some New Testament stories too, but these are good. This is a good one. So it's the fourth book of the Hebrew Bible. It is also part of the Pentateuch. Uh, a lot of numbers is storytelling. And so it's just narrative walking you through the Israelites' journey out of Egypt. So have you heard anything about that?
When I was a kid, I saw the movie Prince of Egypt.
Okay. Yep. So that's perfect.
Okay.
So Prince of Egypt, think Moses and Prince of Egypt. And as they are leaving, they cross the Red Sea, and that's kind of like the culmination of it. So
Okay.
Exodus, the rest of Exodus kind of follows the Israelites through their journey to get the law. So they travel to this mountain called Mount Sinai, and God gives them the law. And Leviticus is just talking about, hey, what is the law? And then after Leviticus, we get Numbers.
Mm.
Numbers picks up from them being at Mount Sinai and follows them until they are on the verge of entering the Promised Land. And then Deuteronomy is the fifth book, and that one is just kind of Moses giving them one last charge before they actually go and try to conquer the Promised Land. So it's actually a neat little interesting story that's woven together from Exodus through Deuteronomy, and actually continues through. Really, I mean, really, that's actually a good chunk of the Hebrew Bible. Just kind of continues on this narrative, which is actually it's kind of cool, if you think about
Hmm.
it. But yeah, this is Numbers. In it, there are Israel's kind of like marching along, going through different people's territories. The background of this story, um, so there is this king called Balak, and Balak is the king of Moab, and he's not happy with the Israelites kind of encroaching on his territory because he's heard what they have done to other people that they've kind of marched through the territory. Like they've warred with them and kind of taken them out. So he's not happy about that, and he wants them to get out of his land. Or at least if they have to meet them in battle, he wants to be able to defeat them. So he goes and finds a good old trusty prophet, a prophet for hire, and says, I
Hmm.
want you to go curse these people. So I'm going to pay you a bunch of money. And Balaam, who is a prophet of God, of Yahweh, of the Hebrew God, which is really interesting because he's not a Hebrew, he's not an Israelite. So he says, no, I can't do that because God has blessed these people, and God told me that He's blessed these people and that I can't touch them.
Hmm.
And so they come back with a larger sum of money, and they're like, hey, we got money for you. Please come curse these people for us because we really don't want to have to meet them in battle, and if we do, we want to be able to defeat them. Balaam is like, no, I can't do that. And then he hears from God, and God tells him, you can go with them, just do exactly what I tell you. Don't do anything more, don't do anything less. Do
Okay.
exactly what I tell you. And so Balaam saddles up his donkey and he starts heading to go meet Balak. And so that's where this story picks up. So this one is Numbers 22, 21 through 35. So that's where we're going to be. And so Balaam got up in the morning, saddled his donkey. Actually, I think I want to read verse 22 or 20
Okay.
as well. That night, God came to Balaam and said to him, if the men have come to summon you, get up and go with them, but only do what I tell you to do. So Balaam got up in the morning, saddled his donkey, and went with the officials of Moab. God's anger was kindled because he was going. So this is where we get that really interesting thing of God saying, yeah, go ahead and go. And then he starts going, and God's like, oh, mm-mm. So,
Okay, that's continuing our last story.
mm, yeah.
That's an interesting dynamic.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so the angel of the Lord took his stand in the road as his adversary. Now he was riding on the donkey, and his two servants were with him. The donkey saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with a drawn sword in his hand. So the donkey turned off the road and went into the field. And Balaam struck the donkey to turn it back onto the road.
Did Balaam see the angel too?
Nope.
Just the donkey.
Yep, just the donkey.
Okay.
Then the angel of the Lord stood in a narrow path between the vineyards with a wall on either side. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, it scraped against the wall and scraped Balaam's foot against the wall, so he struck it. Then the angel of the Lord went ahead and stood in a narrow place where there was no way to turn either to the left or to the right or to the left. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, it lay down under Balaam. And Balaam's anger was kindled, and he struck the donkey with his staff. This is where we get to the interesting part.
Okay.
Then the Lord opened the mouth of the donkey, and it said to Balaam, "What have I done to you that you've struck me these 3 times?" And
So,
go ahead.
okay, go on.
And Balaam said to the donkey, "Because you have made a fool of me, I wish I had a sword in my hand. I would kill you right now."
Okay.
I love the fact that Balaam's reaction to this is not, it's a talking donkey. It's,
No.
yeah, listen here, donkey.
He's like, you've made a fool of me, and now you must die.
You've insulted my honor.
Ugh. And it's not even the donkey talk. I mean, I guess it is, but it's like it's God using the donkey as a puppet, yeah?
Yeah, yeah, essentially. Kind of, yeah. Because we'll kind of get to that because the donkey is talking. I mean, it has its own thoughts because it's like, "Why'd you hit me?"
Yeah.
Which I think is
Okay.
a fair question.
Yeah, that is a very fair question.
Yeah. Okay, so let's pick. But the donkey said to Balaam, "Am I not your donkey, which you have ridden all your life to this day?" Which is also fair. "Have I been in the
Yeah.
habit of treating you this way?" And he said, "No." Then the Lord opened the eyes of Balaam, and he saw the angel, which is interesting because Balaam couldn't see this donkey the whole time, and it was just as easy as that to just,
Yeah.
yeah, crazy.
It
Yeah, go ahead.
okay. No, I feel like that's another thing where like God is just it sounds like this story is God setting people up
Yeah, God is saving Balaam from God.
himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. God's like, not only am I out to get you, I'm also going to possess your donkey.
Yes.
Okay.
And he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with his drawn sword in his hand, and he bowed down, falling on his face. The angel of the Lord said to him, "Why have you struck your donkey these 3 times? I have come out as an adversary because your way is perverse before me. The donkey saw me and turned away from me these 3 times. If it had not turned away from me, surely just now I would have killed you and let it live." So yeah, saving you from myself here. Then
It's
Balaam.
sorry, go ahead. No, I want you to finish and then I'll share my thoughts.
Okay. Then Balaam said to the angel of the Lord, "I have sinned, for I did not know that you were standing in the road to oppose me. Now, therefore, if it is displeasing to you, I will return home." The angel of the Lord said to Balaam, "Go with the men, but speak only what I tell you to speak." So Balaam went on with the officials of Balak. I, I just, I feel like at that point I'd be like, "You're tricking me. I'm not going."
Well, I so God says, go, but only do as I tell you. Puts an enemy in his path.
Yep.
Has the donkey then tries to save him, but only the donkey only allows the donkey to see the angel.
Yep.
Then uses the donkey like not as a puppet, but like allows him to speak. Shows the angel to him. Says, "I would have killed you, but your donkey saved you. Anyways, you can go on now."
Yep. Yep.
How is that sold as a lesson? Is it sold as a lesson?
No, so this one is actually, I feel like some people would have heard this story, but I think this is a pretty niche one, actually.
Hmm.
I don't know if a ton of people have heard this. It's, I don't know if I would quite say it's only a story that Bible nerds have heard, but even for the people who say, "Oh, I read my Bible every year all the way through," I don't think that this story sticks with them.
Yeah.
Um,
I
I,
get it.
yeah, I didn't, actually, because I used to, so I went to a Christian school growing up, and
Mhm.
we would have Bible class. And some of my Bible teachers were really good and they actually taught us things. And some of them um, were not actually trained in any of it. They just worked at a Christian school and they didn't care. They just wanted to teach what they wanted to teach, which is fair.
Yeah.
Um, And so they didn't teach us Bible, and they told us just go read it. We're just for the class time that we have, you're just gonna go read the Bible. And so
And
this was one of those stories that I
yeah,
was just reading the Bible and I came upon it. I was like, what is this? This is a crazy story.
I feel like I would have read that story and I would have had to reread it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, surely I'm missing a key aspect of it.
Oh, there were a couple of them like that for sure.
So does he go on? Does he curse the people?
Okay, yeah, so we can talk about how this story ends because it's actually the entirety of Balaam's story is actually pretty long. It covers several chapters. Um, so Balaam goes to Balak and he's like, I've got the money for you. Like if you curse them, like here's the money, take it, curse them. And Balaam goes to curse them and blesses them. And
I thought they were already blessed.
yeah, and he blesses them again. And
Okay.
so Balak is confused. He's like, I told you to bless them. And he's like, I can't curse them. He was like, okay. And so this happens a couple more times. Like he blesses them a few more times. And Balak is like, stop. Just please, like I paid you and you know what? You can keep the money. Just don't bless them anymore. Please stop blessing them because we're already about to get our ass handed to us by these
Yeah.
people. Please stop blessing them. And he's like, I'm sorry, man. I can only do what God tells me to do. And he blesses them again.
So everybody is conning everybody in this story.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. It is an absolutely insane story. And there is another story about bears in
Bears.
about bears. And that one might be my favorite story. This one I feel like is kind of a close second. It is, I mean, it has like all of the elements that you would want of like deception, people just
Yeah.
taking the money and running, talking animals. I mean, it's got a little bit of everything, you know. I think it is a great story.
I definitely did not expect the talking animals.
Yeah.
I think that by the end of this, like as we continue to talk, my opinion of God is going to be a little different because that is not kind.
No, no, it's not. And oh, you know,
Can can prophets curse people and can they be for hire? I thought that was like, how do you hire a prophet? That feels sacrilegious, feels wrong. Like I can't hire a pope or a wait. Do you I guess you do hire people to marry you.
mhm, yep. Well, this is something that's kind of set up in Leviticus 2. I mean, 2 is in as well, not
Mhm.
2. But basically, the Levites are set aside to be the priests of the people.
Hmm.
And they are supposed, this is where the tithe comes from, actually. So 10% of your income or during that time, it would have been your livestock or your crops or whatever, would be set aside for the Levites because they were not going to work and produce things. They were solely supposed to be dedicated to God and to be the priest for the people and to do all of these things. So everybody in the community was supposed to take care of the Levites. That was the system that they had set up.
Okay.
And it both kept these priests from being able to profiteer off of the people for doing God's work. And it also gave them a way to actually sustain themselves and to live while they were doing, like we may feel a certain way, but they were doing a service for the people. They were doing a
Yeah.
service for the community. And so they were supposed to be taken care of. And it kind of kept like this neat little balanced system. That wasn't how it was with everybody, though. There were prophets for hire. There were people who would come out and say things like, I'll bless these people for you, or I'll curse these people for you if you give me something for it.
Really?
Yeah.
God was down for that.
And that's what's complicated. According to this story, it does not seem like God has a problem with it. But why was this story written? And that's where
Oh.
it's complicated. And that's where I would probably disagree with a lot of evangelical conservatives in the sense that I think these stories were written and possibly put God in a very bad light sometimes, not because this is something that they're trying to say is condoned by God, but they're trying to show the absurdity of
Mm.
people who would think that something like this is okay and how God could be okay with a practice like this.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's at least my take, and not that conservative evangelical Christians would say that, oh no, God condones these evil practices, but they would feel differently about it, not in the sense of, oh, this is critiquing a practice, but that a lot of the times what you get are people who would say, well, that those times were just different. That's their defense of it, I guess.
Do you think that if I don't know how to refer to modern Christians, um, if your everyday Christian were to read or hear this story, do you think it would impact them at all?
I don't know. Um, that's hard to say because whenever I was a youth pastor, I don't think I ever did this story. I don't know.
Yeah, I just feel like it's a story that like if I'm putting myself in someone's shoes, right? You talked about in the last episode kind of being weary of your own sacred text because you don't kind of know what it's going to challenge. Um I could see myself reading this and having that kind of cognitive dissonance between um believing fully in the like the texts that I was aware of previously and then reading this story or like having this idea that God's not, playing around and
Mm-hmm.
then reading this story. Like I could just see this bringing up a lot of dissonance.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I feel like a lot of people when they read this though, just don't think much beyond it. Um, there's kind of this idea that getting through Leviticus, because it's just a bunch of laws back to back to back to back to back, that so many of them have absolutely nothing to do with us anymore. Or
Mm.
that, like, especially Christians wear mixed fabric all the times. Christians eat shellfish. Christians trim the sides of their beard. All of these things that are listed in Leviticus that are just ignored by Christians,
Yeah.
except for the gay part. That one they don't ignore.
Yeah, they don't yeah, the gay part they're not a fan of. Wasn't the original iteration of that more to do with not being a pedophile?
That's complicated. So
Sorry, I don't mean to
per,
take us down this rabbit
yeah.
hole.
Well, it's something that we could definitely talk. That would be an interesting episode to do, of just kind of looking at. There's only about 6 passages in the entirety of the Christian canon that mention homosexuality,
Hmm.
and there are ways to explain away a lot of them, but part of it I think is that the ancient Hebrew culture was just a little homophobic. like
Hmm.
like that's at least for me. I don't know if I can necessarily explain it away in the sense of being able to say, oh, they were just talking about pedophiles and they would actually be fine with same-sex relationships today. I don't know if that's the case. I think they'd probably still
Yeah.
have a problem with it, but during that time, like, I have reasons and explanations for why they would have a problem with it that don't have any real reason to do with homosexuality or same-sex relationships and loving same-sex couples being in a relationship together. It really just
Yeah.
boils down to sex and power. So
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
William, after I said that, I realized that I think I had heard that it was just it was like a translation thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
It's a really popular,
mhm.
um, technically is a mistranslation, that the word homosexual wasn't in the Bible until 1946,
Yeah.
but the concept was still there. The idea was still there. Um,
Yeah. Just because the language doesn't exist doesn't mean the themes don't.
yeah, exactly. And That's something I'd like to talk about in the future because that was one of the big things that actually started my deconstruction.
Yep. Pagans do not mind.
Yeah,
I know a
totally down
lot
for
of
it.
pagan lesbians. Like a lot. I don't know any. I was pausing because I was running through, not that I keep a list of the people I know who are gay in my head, but I was like running through and I was like, do I know? I don't think I know any Christian people who are homosexual.
Um, I know some in online spaces. I don't
Yeah.
personally. Well, you know, the that's not entirely true. I had some friends that, and the way that this always worked is, um, you'd have somebody who was like, I'm gay, but I am choosing not to act on it because God's just so much better, and I'm just not going to fall for
Hmm.
that temptation and things like that. So those are the Christians that I know. In
Interesting.
online spaces, I have seen Christians who are like, I'm openly gay and I'm in a relationship with my partner and we are Christian, or, I'm openly trans and
Yeah.
I'm go to this church and things like that. But
That's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
There's a church in St. Louis when I lived in St. Louis, that very proudly talked about how much of a safe space they were. Like threw they flew a pride flag, and their thing was like all are welcome here. Obviously, I never tested that theory. Um,
If they flew a pride flag, I'm assuming that they probably were. The term that we use in Christian spaces is affirming.
hmm,
I assume that they probably were, because I've been to churches that will say all are welcome that don't have anything like that up, and it's a pretty dead giveaway as soon as you walk in. Like if you walked in and you were openly gay, like you came in with your partner, or
yeah.
you are openly trans or things like that, you would start having some very uncomfortable experiences at that church. They wouldn't allow you in leadership. They'd be like,
Mm.
"Oh, you're welcome to come here," but they wouldn't allow you in leadership. They wouldn't. They would push for you to either detransition or break up with your partner, things like that. And yeah,
This is another like maybe I guess we don't have to go down this rabbit hole. This is probably not what you intended for us to talk about. I'm so sorry.
no, this is
Um,
great.
Have I ever told you about I don't know what it's necessarily called, but I had someone suggest that I go to like the woman equivalent of seminary school.
No.
Yeah, she, because I work with that homeless outreach in my hometown.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think you and I knew each other very much then. If so, I probably would have sent you some pictures because my very first meeting, it's in a Catholic hospital, which is fine. I do not recognize a lot of the imagery. And so I go into the room, there's nuns. Yes, nuns are Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
Nuns everywhere. And I'm in this meeting, everything's going well. I'm talking to like different pastors. One of them is a woman. And I was talking about, gender differences or whatever. I was explaining to her that I don't necessarily understand religion, but listen, we're all on the same page with this. We're all like trying to get this outreach going. I'm down if you're down. And she was like, yeah, if you are curious, I really think that you should go. I think you'd like it a lot. She's like, you can't go very high, but it's only like a year. And you're an academic, so I think that you should lean into it. And I was like, I will probably not, but thank you so much for the suggestion.
So, yeah, Catholic stuff, Catholics do not ordain women. There
Mm-hmm.
are denominations that do. Um, Off the top of my head, some Lutheran sects will. Um, yeah, I don't know. A lot of Pentecostals are much more open to the idea of women in leadership in ministry, but
Interesting.
not all of them. And the Southern Baptist Church is very against it. Very, very against it.
I feel like what I would like to do maybe in some episode later, or maybe in Patreon, is I need like one of those Charlie Day, for lack of
Big
better term,
chart.
like I need a big chart because I'm like, you are telling me like, sex,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, yes, Pentecostals, long hair, long skirts, I know that. Catholics,
Yes.
I know that. Nuns, incense, right? Um,
Smells and bells. That's yeah.
but Southern Baptists, I'm just like, are Southern Baptists,
Yes is
um,
probably the answer. They are so eclectic. They're
I,
so diverse. Um,
I know Catholics are not afraid to drink. Are Southern Baptists also like you can kind of like sin through the week and then pray it away?
all Christians are kind of like that a little bit. Like it depends on who you're talking about. People like my parents were not like that. You did not sin throughout the week. That was
Mm.
not okay. But they're which because I went to a private school, like a Christian school, which we were supposed to be good children and we weren't always. But
Of course. It's probably
because,
very expensive.
uh, uh, the one I went to was a lot less expensive than you'd think.
Mm.
It was a little bit. It was kind of one of those rundown private schools a little bit, but yeah.
It's like private in quotes.
Yeah, yeah. I think Christian better described the school that I went to than private. So
Hell yeah.
yeah, um, but yeah, we had a basketball gym that the AC and the heater didn't work, so you froze during the winter and you sweated everything off during the summer. It was
Nice.
yeah, but
Seems godly.
it was great. Yeah, we were sweating for the Lord, you know. Um, I, I don't remember where I was going with that.
I'm so sorry. We
Southern
were,
Baptists, I think.
yes,
Yeah, so
sitting
really,
throughout the weeks.
yeah, yeah. So I think most Christians were kind of like that. My spouse knew some people that have you, oh, what is that? Those two women. I think it's like Garfunkel and Oates or something like that.
Okay, yes.
Okay,
Yo, I hear
they,
you. Yeah.
they did the fuck me in the ass because I love Jesus. That
Yes.
100% is a true stereotype. 100% is.
Yeah. Listen, maybe this is giving too much information about myself out to the public, but I've worked in a couple different sex shops, like as a salesperson. And yeah, I've had that conversation more than once.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
It's loophole. It's
And I was like, I'm just here to keep everyone safe. But if you wanted to talk about the logic of that, we could. It's up
yeah,
to you.
yeah.
It's
It's
up
like
to you.
hey,
I'm just saying, I'll tell you how to keep healthy. And
no
we could explore the
judgment,
thought.
but
Yeah, like not judging, just stating.
yeah,
But your spouse always says when I say that, it sounds like I'm judging.
not judging, but
I
no,
was like, I'm not
it's
judging.
whenever you say not to be a dick.
Oh yeah,
That's
I'm
what it
not.
is.
I'm not trying to be a dick,
Yeah.
but and then I say something awful. Yeah,
Balaam's donkey, man. we got on a rabbit hole.
we were really talking out our ass on that one.
Yeah, yeah, we were. See, it is relevant. There we go.
I got you. I'll tie us back. Mm.
Okay, so yeah, the context of it is Balaam goes, tries to curse, doesn't, blesses, and just keeps blessing, and that's kind of how the story ends. It doesn't really go any further into that, which is really interesting. But yeah, I think that being able to see a talking donkey in a sacred text, I think is kind of hilarious. It's something you wouldn't expect, but
It's almost something I wouldn't, if I was not an adult with a developed frontal lobe that wanted to approach this with respect, it's not something I could take seriously.
yeah, honestly, because this is like a story that I think we should be telling children instead of like
Yeah.
the the Binding of Isaac story or Noah's Ark or things like that. I think those are the stories we shouldn't be telling children. And this is more of the, I mean, they would love it. Talking donkey.
You know what? If I wanted to cobble, if I wanted to like extract a lesson from this, I would say there's something to be said about maybe not conning, but being in positions where you were asked to do bad, but use that position to facilitate good,
I
right?
think
There's
that
something about like the power in that, right? It's a very Robin Hood story. I think you could sell it to kids as a Robin Hood story.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's a good takeaway from this.
It's the
Yeah,
takeaway I'm gonna hold on to because
it's a good one.
that's all I got. I do imagine when you tell me these stories, I know that we're only two in, but all angels in my mind are biblically accurate.
So, are we talking about like the ones that circulate on TikTok and things like that?
Yeah, like the absolute horror shows
Yeah,
of but I imagine they're not. I imagine they look more like angels. Have you seen the Netflix adaptation of Sandman?
I know what you're talking about. I have not seen it, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think it's is it Gwendolyn Christie that plays
I think
Lucifer?
so. Yeah.
Maybe I should imagine angels like that. She does a great job.
Yeah. So biblically accurate angel typically is going to be a being with like a bunch of different. So like we get the idea of like, oh, the angel with like the big wings and everything. That's not incorrect. Typically though, they have a lot more wings than that and then like a bunch of eyeballs on their face and things like that.
Are they Cthulhu-esque creatures in the sense that to bear witness to them is to brush with madness?
Probably. Um
Really?
yeah,
Interesting.
so you know, every time an angel shows up in certain circumstances where they're not trying to invoke fear, such as this one, this angel's trying to invoke fear in Balaam. But ooh, we
Hmm.
could talk about. We're getting close to Christmas. Maybe we need to do an episode of virgin birth and talk about that. But
Listen,
um,
if you bring some Christmas stories, I'll bring my partner does an entire hour-long presentation of Christmas like myths and folklores. There's like the Christmas goblins, there's the Yule Cat, obviously Krampus.
have you
I'm ready.
seen Red One?
No, I skipped that one.
Oh, you should watch it. It kind of like folds a bunch of Christmas myths all into one. It's kind of fun.
I love it.
Yeah. I yeah. So the angel, whenever the angel appears to Mary, who's the mother of Jesus, the angel
Hmm.
says, "Do not be afraid," and it's because these angels are kind of scary looking.
Like horrifying. Hmm.
Yeah.
I think a takeaway, from religion, maybe I'll try to do that every episode as well. I'll tell you like what my
Yeah.
takeaway from religion is, things I didn't think about before. Last one was the concubines. I said I pictured them right as these like Lovecraftian creatures, kind of tongue in cheek. I didn't realize that they appeared to scare people. We're two stories in. This is bleak, man. It's dark. It's not what I have been fed is not true.
I think it's funny because I knew what we were getting into with this. I don't know if you you knew what we were getting into.
I don't think so either. It does also reignite, I don't know if I've told you that I've been toying around with the idea, maybe this is a real Balaam situation, of using some of my two dropped out art degrees to make content, physical content,
Mm,
PDFs,
yeah,
calendars maybe, I don't know, things you can download, of like those really stereotypical like Jesus holding political figures.
I love
You know what I
it.
mean?
I love it so
I've been toying
much.
around because I was just like, I could do that and I could
You
definitely make some
could.
money off of it. I
Yeah,
could
you
absolutely
could.
do it. Stickers, things like that. I designed stickers for my partner's business. Maybe I should pick someone and have them being embraced by a biblically accurate angel.
Amazing. Yep. Uh, go read the story of Isaiah 6. I feel like Isaiah 6 does a, that's probably like quintessential what a biblically accurate angel would look like.
I love that. It's a shame there's no pictures, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. There should
No
be.
sculptures either. They're not portrayed that way in any of the art that I ever encountered. But art used to take a lot more time to make.
Hmm.
It's not something you just do on Procreate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know what we were doing. I mean, I knew what we were doing, but I don't think I knew what was up.
Yeah. Well, this and this angel's got a sword too. I mean, oh,
What's
so I
red
mean,
for?
yeah. If we, oh gosh, we could go down a rabbit hole. Um, Angels are just messengers of God. Sometimes in the Hebrew Bible, equated with like, I mean, almost the patron deity of certain areas.
Mm.
That's almost how they are viewed, is these patron deities.
Are
Um,
they named?
Sometimes, yeah.
Mhm.
Uh, so the angel that presides over Israel is Michael.
Mm-hmm. There's a movie
Um,
about him.
mhm. Yeah, so Michael is seen as the archangel, and then you start getting into the lore of Lucifer as
Hmm.
an angel at one point, which that's also not actually from the Bible. It's
Really?
Lucifer is Latin for morning star, and morning star, I believe, I think it's Isaiah or maybe Jeremiah. I don't remember which one, but one of the prophets talks about like how far you have fallen, morning star, and people took that to be as Satan became this amalgamated character that people just started referring to as like the devil kind
Yeah.
of thing. Um, that story started being associated with the devil as a fallen angel. And they call him Lucifer because Lucifer was morning star in Latin.
Oh,
And yeah, it's not actually there. It was referring to a king.
interesting how differently, right? Because obviously the things I know from pop culture. And you know, they really ran with that idea
Mm-hmm. Yep.
of Lucifer being a fallen angel.
Yeah.
Because I would have gun to my head sworn that was true.
Mm-hmm.
About as true as we can,
Yep. And,
Interesting.
being true is complicated because it is true because it's entered Christian mythos, but
Yeah.
as far as it entered Christian mythos based off of a faulty premise, basically. So that's what's interesting about it because it is true. It is
Yeah.
a part of Christian lore and Christian mythos, but it entered
I
under
do
dubious circumstances.
I say that and I think I just want to like preface with it's not that I'm saying like, oh, all of this is fairy tale.
Mm-hmm.
I think that when I'm consuming it, I'm kind of do I think that it's like we had talked about with Adam and Eve, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's got to be something symbolic.
Mm-hmm.
Um and so it's true in the sense that it's representative of something that was happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I say that having no idea how the Bible was written.
I I think that's I think that's a good take on it. Part of it is just, I mean, because this is something that always bothers me a little bit with Christians. We look at Greek mythology that has stories that can kind of be similar and overlap sometimes,
Yeah.
and we say, "Oh, those are ridiculous. They're obviously fake." Like, well,
Yeah.
why were they written? Well, to try to people trying to explain the world. Well,
Yeah.
why can't that be true about your scripture? Why can't it just be a story about trying to explain the world?
I like that. And I think that I also hadn't considered until you just said that how much, I have a huge Athena chest tattoo, for a variety of reasons. And sometimes I get a little pushback about like Athena was kind of a dick, right? Like, yeah, the goddess of like war and wisdom, and, depending upon how you interpret and even that, how you interpret the myth of Medusa.
Mm.
Right. Some translations will say, she cursed her, and some translations will say, well, she saved her, right? She like gave her this protection from men. But oh, she was jealous of others' beauty and she like cursed mortals all the time.
Mm.
Um, and you just know that about Greek gods, right? You're just like,
Yep.
yeah, they're all faulty, complex characters.
Mm-hmm.
But the Christian God, at least in the way that it was has been presented to me, has been very one-dimensional, and it does make me wonder, if, in the big scheme of things, I have not completely fallen for the entire propaganda, not just that one time I went to a movie, but just all of it.
Yeah.
I gotta reflect on that.
It's very intentional though. you know.
Yeah.
And part of the reason why you see this sanitized version of the Christian God, which Jews actually don't, and like obviously I'm speaking for Jews and don't
Yeah.
know what I'm talking about, but like from what I can tell, Jewish people don't love the idea that Christians have kind of done this to their God, of making their God omnipotent and
Yeah.
omnipresent and kind of ineffable and things like that. Because that's not the picture that you get from the Hebrew Bible of who God is. I mean, like as we've just seen in this story, like God got angry. God changed his mind. So
Yeah. God was not being very cash money
no.
about that whole he was really not making up his mind. I I can't wait to see how my criticisms change as we move through this process
Mm,
because I think I went into this with a baseline criticism of from what I know about God, the Christians that I interact with or the Christians that I'm exposed to maybe don't follow his teachings. Like I think that I was critical of what I perceived to be hypocrisy between like the sacred text and the individuals. And now I am wondering if maybe there's just a fundamental misunderstanding or lack of proper representation of the text itself. I'm gonna have to read the Bible.
you're gonna have to read
Uh-oh.
it. Uh-oh. Make sure you read these parts too, because here's how they get you. They tell you go read the Gospel of John. That's what you need to go read. And reading the Gospel of John gives you a very tidy, pretty picture of Jesus, where Jesus is this perfect being who is God incarnate, comes down and dies for our sins. And it's this really pretty bow, and it's like it's really nice because God loved us so much that God came in human form and then died for us so that we could be reunited with him. And that's like a really nice pretty picture, and it excludes things like this story.
That excludes a lot. It also, man, this is a hot take, so bear with me. There's that one viral video going around of like a young man complaining about the patriarchy and complaining about it in a very like anti-feminist way. So like I am against women because of this, that, and the other, because of the patriarchy. And a woman says, "Well, who made that system?"
Mm,
Right. And so when I hear that story as it is, I'm just like, so God came down in human form, love that. Sacrificed himself, cool. Also, it seems like everyone's playing by God's house rules.
yep. And that was my
So
criticism too.
yeah, I was like, thank you for killing yourself for me because you decided that you had to do that for what you decided were my sins.
Yep.
Thank you.
Appreciate it so much.
That's sick, man.
Thank you for dying so I'm not gay. that's that's what it comes
Man,
down to a lot.
maybe this is not a question to ask where people can hear it, but do you think that this podcast will solidify my place in hell?
I don't know about yours, but it for sure will solidify mine. And you know what? We'll be right there together. So,
Hell yeah. I don't think you have heard one of my favorite things to say when I'm really tired of an overpopulated area is I'll be like, I need God to come get his people. I thought the rapture was supposed to happen.
I thought so too. Oh, I saw a TikTok the other day where it was like, was COVID the rapture? Like, are we in the end times right
I
now?
did see that. I was like, what if it was the rapture? I made it out, so possibly.
Maybe. I don't. I was still drinking the Kool Aid at that point. So why am I
Oh,
here? It's because
that's
God knew.
fair.
God knew I was gonna be a heathen. So
In theory, yeah, he would have known.
yeah. If we're talking
Hmm.
the Calvinistic God, then sure. That's the first theologian we're going to. Calvin's ideas are too important for us not to know them. So
I'm looking forward to it.
yeah,
This was a great story though.
yeah.
I I can't wait to hear I cannot wait to hear more. I don't know what I was expecting, but it was not these stories. I think I was expecting some like Noah's Ark stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and then talking donkeys.
Talking donkeys. Do we
Yeah.
have a I don't know if you have other more questions. If so, I'm totally down, but do we have a teaser for next week?
Um, Not yet. Well,
Okay.
so I guess because I do realize we've talked a lot about this episode, and I did want there to be some kind of takeaway. So like the thing that two things that I kind of see as a takeaway of this, and then you can tell me what you think are your takeaways from it. One, I think that sometimes truth can come from an unexpected source.
Hmm.
Balaam's not expecting his donkey to be revealing truth to him. And
Interesting.
I think the other thing for me is I just see this story as anti prophets for hire. That's what I see it as. That's what I think the purpose of it is in its original
Yeah.
context. And so the way that I'd see it now is like be wary of people who are offering you spiritual things for profit. That
Yeah.
that's that's my second takeaway of it. What about you?
I like the truth can come from unexpected sources. I would not have considered that, but I think that again, if I were to pitch it to a child, that is, maybe how I would, keep your eyes open, keep your mind open, some critical thinking stuff. And I do maintain what I said originally, but maybe more concisely said, like utilizing the utilization of there we go. Positions of power for doing good. Um, because, Balaam was in a position of power, he'd been hired. And maybe I relate to that just because of my specific field, right? I'm in academia. I'm in the ivory tower. I am in, you know, a demographic that seems out of touch with a lot of other Americans. But I have all this, I'm in a position of power. I could use my research for good. Or I
Yeah.
could become an industrial organizational psychologist and just
Mm.
make a gross amount of money.
Yep. Just roll in it.
Not to apply it back to me, but
Yeah,
yeah, those are
no.
my takeaways.
No, I think that's good. My favorite part of doing things like Bible studies was looking at the stories and thinking about how does this apply to me and how can I use this to make myself a better person. And so I think that's a great way to look at it and reflect on how we use stories like this in our own lives. I think.
Yeah. In some ways, I feel like I'm interacting with these stories in the same way that I would interact with visual art. And it's interesting that it elicits different like thoughts between you and I.
Mhm.
Because I guess I had also considered, or I hadn't considered, that individuals would read specific Bible stories and have a different takeaway. I thought it was kind of like a boilerplate. I tell you this story, and this is what you're supposed to get from it.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, if you asked an evangelical Christian, that is what what they would say. There's only one correct interpretation, but
well, I need them to tell me what's up with Balaam then. You know what? I'm gonna send some emails.
do it. Go every pastor you know, email.
I do work with that pastor
You should do it.
in my hometown. I work with a bunch of them actually. I should go to them and be like, listen, I started a podcast. I'll write you a grant if you do an FAQ. I wouldn't
Should.
do that. That's an abuse of power, but still.
At least they probably answer your questions, but they
It's
would.
symbiotic.
Yeah. I think the last thing I want to discuss is: do you think that a story like this belongs in a sacred text, or is this something that just shouldn't be there?
In the way that we've talked about it, yeah.
Mm.
In its raw, unadulterated form, I don't know. I have to think about if this story could be similar to like the Abraham and the Isaac story.
Mm.
If this could be used to send maybe a harmful message.
Yeah.
I think it could be confusing. I think there's a reason a lot of people haven't read it,
Mm-hmm.
or if they have read it, it's not sticking. So, in the way that the Bible's consumed now, maybe not. How it was consumed when it was written, maybe.
Yeah.
What do you, yeah.
Yeah. I think that I love the fact that this story is in the Bible. Um, simply, and this is probably going to be our background difference. I love the fact that this is in the Bible because so often everything had to be super serious when we were in church. There was little room for like humor until you get into youth
Yeah.
group, and then you're allowed a little bit of humor in the Bible, and then you get out of youth group, and the humor's gone. It's dead. You
Yeah, no
can't.
more fun.
Yeah, no more fun. Um, and so I think I kind of love that this story is in
Yes.
there, and I think it also speaks to. I had this conversation with somebody the other day, but life is just kind of absurd sometimes. Like it is absurd the
Yes.
things we're able to see and do in this life. Like the fact that I am talking to you through technology, like this camera
Yeah.
that's sitting on my computer right now, and I'm
Yeah.
able to
Through the
talk to you.
air.
Yeah, through the air. Like it's
Yeah.
just traveling through these little wires to send a communication relay to be able to show our
That's true.
faces. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy when you think about it. And then like if you factor in Wi-Fi and things like that, you're also using radio signals and things like that. So it's
Wild.
just yeah, it's wild to think, and just some of the things we can do are absurd. And I like the fact that a sacred text has a story like this because I feel like it kind of scratches that itch that we all have for looking at the absurd and
Yeah.
enjoying it and thinking about crazy things, like a talking donkey.
Yeah.
Um, so I kind of love it. I kind of love that it's in there. Um,
That's fair.
yeah.
Yeah. I think I'll probably think about this one a little bit more than the Abraham and Isaac one, actually. This one actually might have taken the role of what will be consuming me until we record next.
Hmm. New Roman Empire.
Yeah, my new Roman Empire. Every time we record, I'll have something else to obsess over to keep me up at night.
There you go. You can understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah. I'll
Man.
be laying awake being like, well, actually, if you looked at it this way, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I look
That's
forward
what
to it.
consumes me. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, so I think next week we will. I haven't decided because I want to be able to get to the theologian of the month or um, being able to have you tell your pagan story.
Hmm.
So I think we should do like a pagan Christmas. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I think I am going to talk about some of, the Yule log's a thing.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
talk about, um, I'll have to remember some of it. I cannot remember a lot of it. And I'll bring my friend's journal. We can take a little peek through it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I love it. Pagan Christmas.
All right. Pagan Christmas up next. So sounds great. And
Perfect.
then I'll probably talk a little bit about Christian Christmas as well, just to give you a background on that. And then we'll
I
do
love
that.
it.
Yeah. Um, I think that's all I got. You have any final thoughts over this?
No thoughts, all vibes.
Amazing. All right. So again, if you want to read this story, it's numbers 22. We actually ended up including 20, so numbers 22, 20 through 35. And if you've read this story, let me know because I have not heard a whole bunch of Christians who have read this story before. So if you read it, let me know. And if you have read it, also tell us whether or not you found something different in it that you haven't ever noticed before, and what your thoughts in general are over this. We'd like to know.
Yeah,
So,
perfect.
all right,
We should be having, once I get it from my partner, we should have a phone number that we can use for text as well.
great, amazing.
So,
Yeah. Until then, I've just kind of I think Blue Sky, like reaching out to me on Blue Sky, or if do you want to include your X handle, or would you rather not do that?
my ex is unhinged. My ex handle, there's some numbers in it and some other like capitalizations and stuff, but it's God Sam it.
I love it. That's amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, so if you want to reach out to us, as long as you don't send anything weird, otherwise you're getting blocked. But
Yeah,
you
don't
know,
be weird.
all
Trying to
right,
live my life.
all right. Until next time.
Bye. If you liked this episode, please consider liking and subscribing if you are on YouTube, or rate and follow the podcast.
Thank you for joining us for this episode. If you have any questions or would like to suggest a story, please feel free to reach out to us on X or Blue Sky.
Until next time, remember, sometimes the wisest words come from the most unexpected places.
Even an ass.